Been to 12-step meetings before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Many times.
Oh, yeah.
Many times. Not you, though. Yeah?
I've never really been to one.
12-step meetings?
Is that like the meeting in
Not been to 12-step meetings? Ever heard of the Serenity Prayer?
This is
Cowboy guy?
So first?
Same
Okay. Okay, so who knows the Serenity Prayer? Everybody knows the Serenity Prayer, right? Okay. So all together now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. All right, my name is Felix, and I'm here representing Heroin Anonymous tonight, and I'm a recovered alcoholic, recovered heroin addict, just recovered all around, hopeless, dope fiend of the hopeless variety. That's the main idea. So, you guys are pretty familiar with it, other than this guy over here. Hopefully we'll give you a good taste of what's going on. So that's a prayer that you hear all the time in there. And you know what? After I've been to enough meetings enough times, I'm like, I'm getting tired of the mundane, the repetitive, the over. I need to freshen things up, liven things up. And here's a prayer called the Set Aside Prayer that I like to use sometimes. I'll turn you on to that. It seems all you guys have been around the block a couple times. It goes like this. God, please help us set aside everything we think we know about ourselves, our affliction, these steps, and especially you, for an open mind and a new experience with ourselves, our affliction, these steps, and especially you. We know nothing. Show us everything. Amen.
Amen. That's deep. That's a good one.
So, why don't we introduce ourselves a little bit? So, since all you guys been...
I'm Jason. I'm an addict.
Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
So you've been to some meetings?
Yeah, I haven't been to many HA, but I'm definitely an open addict.
Well, I'm about the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, right? And so that's used as a program of recovery in AA as well as Heroin Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Crystal Meth Anonymous. I think they use it in Marijuana Anonymous. I know they use it in Gambling Anonymous. A lot of them use it because it's a program of recovery that has worked for a lot of different addictions and addictive, destructive types of behaviors. And the reason that is that the solution found in that program doesn't really deal with the specific addiction to a substance. It deals with control addiction. And what we found in utilizing this program is that the solution to a control addiction is faith. Faith that somebody else is really controlling all this, and he knows what he's doing better than I do, and so this helps me to turn control over to him and get over whatever it is. Get relieved of the obsession and go stick a needle in my arm. Whatever the case may be. That's one of them. That's one of the sayings. Yeah, that's what they're talking about right there.
My granny used to always tell me that.
Yeah.
Boy, you need to let go and let God. Amen to that.
Do you believe that?
100%. Yeah.
But have a little trouble accomplishing that in your life?
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer in God. I could say I believe I met Him. You know what I mean? So unfortunately, I was shot 9 times at one time. You know what I mean? So for me to sit here and say that there's not a higher power, I'll be sitting here lying. I'll be sitting here saying, that God didn't give me a second chance at life, and He didn't keep me here for a reason. But I just need to find the reason. I need to find the reason why I'm here. And unfortunately, I suffer from meth. I'm an addict of meth. And I like to play some hard games with God sometimes. And it's not fair. I like to challenge Him with the needle.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? I've never heard somebody else say that. You like to challenge Him sometimes?
I guess, yeah, I have, and let me tell you what, be careful what you wish for, man, because you just might get it.
And that's what I'm afraid of.
See, I call it going toe to toe with Him, because my mind has the ability to talk me into or out of anything,
right.
and so. For a while I believed what I was doing was I was putting self-will or free will to the test. It's like, if that really does exist, then I should be able to choose whether I live or I die. and I did things that should have killed me multiple times over. You know, I got in car wrecks, I OD'd, shot 2.25 grams of heroin one time and woke up 8 hours later laying on my bathroom floor. Still a little bit blue yet, but I did things that should have killed me. I've been in an armed standoff with the cops, car wrecks, comas in the hospital. The last coma I was in was for a week long, and that didn't even have to do with street drugs, you know. And through all of that, I've never broken a bone. I've never even had so much as a stitch or a staple, you know. And I come out the other side of all that. At the time, I was convincing myself that, well, there should be this thing called free will or self will or whatever you call it, and I should be able to take myself out if I want to, if I choose to. And I knew that I didn't have the courage to just put the gun to my head and pull the trigger. And for a period of time, when I was really far out there, I had a 380 with a hollow point in it, and I used to sit there in a chair and turn it over and over. It was a chrome-plated little thing, turn it over and over in my hand, cursing myself that I didn't have the fucking balls to just put it to my head and pull the trigger. I mean, and I wanted for that day to come. You know, I convinced my mind convinced me that, amongst other things, that I thought maybe I could turn pain into courage, that if things got bad enough, it would give me the balls to do that. I mean, I even took all of the safety mechanism off of the guns. If I ever got enough courage just for 2 frickin' seconds to put it to my head and pull the trigger, that I was going to make sure that fucking happened, right? And I couldn't do that. I knew I couldn't do that. I spent many months just running and gunning, the Jack Daniels and the spoonful of dope and whatever the hell it took. And some mornings I would wake up and then have some clarity of mind, and I have to start thinking about the situation I was in and worrying about I'm going back to prison again, and that knot in my gut, and think I got to figure out a different way out of this. He ain't going to let me die, and I can't keep just doing drugs. Sooner or later, I'm just going to end up back in prison. I have to find a way out. And I knew I didn't have the balls to put the gun to my head and pull the trigger, so I had to find a way to commit suicide. And it had to be a way that this time was going to work, and it had to be a way that I could live with. You know, I had to find a way to kill myself that I could live with. You know, only an addict thinks like that. It's like, holy shit, man, you know?
Yeah, I never knew that it was other people who played that game. I like to... I used to tell my family that, and that's basically why I'm here right now, is because I would tell them the game that I like to play. You know, I like to shoot up the G, but I would like to put them there a whole gram or half a gram. You know what I mean? 4 cc's of meth in a wrench and dry shoot it. You know what I mean? Pull the blood back and let it. You know what I mean? And I haven't lost the battle yet. You know what I mean? And it's just because it's not my time.
I became convinced of that. He's not going to let me die until he chooses to let me die. And that's when I really found myself between a rock and a hard place. It's like, now what the fuck am I going to do? There's no way out of this.
I should have known that when I got shot right here.
Yeah.
Damn. I should have known
that. Should have killed you.
You know, I also got shot right there. I got shot right there. I got shot right there. I got shot right there. They shot off all my fingers on this hand. I was shot here. And I was shot here. And I was shot here. And I was shot. Each bullet went straight through me.
Damn.
And I still didn't die.
Just like me, you know, that should have killed you. There's no explanation as to how that didn't kill you. He won't let it happen. Right, so he talked about finding purpose, okay? And walking in that purpose. And you can tell, obviously, you can see and you can hear and you feel that I'm not in that kind of a position anymore. I'm way on the other side of all that. So I had 17 years clean and sober at one point in time, almost 17 years. And Father's Day of 2010, I relapsed. And it took about 2.5 years to blow through all the liquid assets that I had and turn it back into a crime wave and start racking up felonies. And finally get arrested. And the main thing that I was arrested for was a guy stole some shit from me, and I don't put up with all that, right? And so I threatened him at gunpoint, and I told him he was going to return my shit or else. 3 weeks later, I drank almost a whole bottle of Jack Daniels, and in a complete blackout, I drove 8 miles from my house, and I went over to his house, and I shot his house up with that 380 I was telling you about. And I have no recollection of any of those events at all. And about an hour and a half later, he led the cops to my house. When the cops showed up at my house, I drew down on them with the same gun still loaded from the drive-by shooting. And so I started to come out of that blackout face down in my front yard with 5 cops on my back disarming me. So that and that's the main case, and a lot of other shit that I got myself into landed me in prison with a 12-year sentence. I ended up doing 11 years in prison as a result of that. Okay, halfway through that prison sentence, God got me clean and sober again, and then gave me an opportunity for years in prison to study how to live this program and to learn how to help his kids, and I found that purpose. And so I did just over 11 years in prison, and I just got out 90 fucking days ago. 3 months out of prison.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get no credit for any of that. I was in the same position. I wanted out. But we're talking about finding purpose and walking in that purpose. And you see, feel, and hear a different man today because of what he's done. Because today I'm walking in the purpose for which I was created. I'm down here right now. You're on the other side of the table of the purpose that I'm living in. I come down here twice a week. And this is, I thrive on this. I thrive on this because the people that, there's always at least a few people like yourselves that have been running hard and living in pain, misery, suffering, horrors, the fears and the hates and the shit, the horrors of fucking addiction, right? And they've been, I'm sure, looking for a way out. I've heard it so many times in rooms about insanity is trying the same thing repeatedly and expecting different results. And I don't buy into that. That's a bunch of bullshit. That's not what this program teaches, and that's not my experience. We're not stupid people. We are. If I truly was completely hopeless and convinced of that, I would have had the balls to put that gun in my head and pull the trigger. Okay, there was something deep down inside of me that was still always looking for. There's got to be a way for me to put my life on track and to keep it that way. There's got to be another way out. Because if something in me didn't know that, then I would have pulled the damn trigger, right? So, I've tried a lot of different things along the way. I've been through treatment 7 times. I've been through treatment. I kept trying different things. That's how I ended up moving from Wisconsin to Arizona in 1992. I thought, I tried this, didn't work, tried this, didn't work, tried this, didn't work. Maybe Wisconsin is my problem, so I'm going to move 2,100 miles away to Arizona. 2 months later, I'm back in jail out here with 2 felony cases pending. Well, that wasn't it. But the point is that I wasn't trying the same thing repeatedly. I was not. I was trying new, different things. I just lacked the truth I needed about the nature of my condition, that I have a physical condition, that once I put any mood-altering, mind-altering substances into my body, I lose control over what and how much I do. And then drugs and alcohol are managing my life for me. And then I go off the freaking deep end. I do crazy-ass, absurd shit. I'm a completely different person. Personality has changed around, and after a while I start just doing very antisocial shit. Stealing to support my habit. People are pissing me off. They're stealing from me, and I get this idea that I need to prove to them that they can't get away with that with me. So now I'm pulling guns on people and chasing them, and I'm getting arrested, and they won't hang around with me because they know that I'm going to get arrested the way I'm behaving, and if they're hanging around with me, they're going to get arrested too, and they know that because that's what happened. And the next time around, no, stay away from me when you're like that, right? People abandon us. They're like, they don't want to be a part of that crazy, chaotic, off the fucking rails. And so it isn't that we try the same things repeatedly and expect different results. No, the insanity that this program talks about is that if I have this condition, right, as a physical condition, that I have any mood-altering, mind-altering substance I take into my body, something happens to me physically and mentally that I lose control over what and how much I use, and then I'm off to the races. And then I have a mental condition that always somehow or another my mind talks me into picking the first one up. Either, we're just going to do it for a little while, and then we'll go back to getting sober, or right,
it turns into this and turns into this, and
convinces me all this crazy shit, right? Or living the way that according to my will and my intellectual power, my own thinking, right? I create a set of circumstances in my life that makes me miserable, and it becomes necessary to have to pick a few up. I get the case of the fuckets, right? It's like, I can't keep dealing with things the way that they are. And it's not things the way that they are. It's I've created this mess. And this mess has caused my internal condition to either be running in fear, and I don't even really see it. I just feel, not right. Or in hate, in this program they talk about resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else, right? I had a 39-year-old cousin in 2009 that he was alcoholic, and he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had every opportunity that a person could ask for, and but he was still drinking himself to death. It didn't matter, and I wasn't there, but I know enough about the facts to know that it was in the morning when he finally put the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. He followed through on that. He made the supreme sacrifice, and I know enough about the details to know that he wasn't drunk at the time. He no doubt was pissed off because his bosses had fired him. He'd lost very lucrative jobs. He had lost his home. His wife had divorced him and taken the kids away from him, and he was probably angry at his parents and his brother for trying to force him into quit drinking. It got to the point where he hated everything in his life. He hated everyone. He hated the world, and finally he hated himself and hated his life so much that he put the gun to his head and pulled the trigger. It wasn't fucking alcohol that killed him. He wasn't even drinking at the time. It was resentment that killed him.
Yeah, resentment, yeah.
Right? So there's this me running on self-will in my life. I will create circumstances that will cause me misery and suffering until it becomes absolutely necessary to have a few drinks, to have a few lines, to have a few pills, bowls, whatever it is that you do, right? Got to get some relief from this internal condition, right? So this is a mental and a physical condition. If all I had was the physical condition, all I'd have to do is not pick the first one up. Problem solved, right? Some people could do that. I can't do that. If all I had was the mental condition, I could go out every night after work and go to the bar and get half fucked up and come 8, 9 o'clock at night, every night I would go home, get something to eat, go to bed, and get up for work the next day, right? I wouldn't have that physical condition that, I don't know what's going to happen. I might go home one night, but then by the end of the week, next thing you know, I'm gone for 3 fucking days. I got a needle in my arm. I might be gone for a week or a month because I'm off to the races, right? The physical condition takes over. So you take this mental part of it, the physical part of it, and put those two things together, and it constitutes a hopeless fucking condition. I'm condemned to always one way or another go pick the first one up, and then from there the physical condition takes over, and I'm condemned to go off the fucking rails, off the deep end, okay? Circumstances in life did not create that condition. There's no way that outside circumstances created that condition. Did it? So through every freaking form of trial and experimentation and everything I can imagine to try to do, I've tried to arrange circumstances to try to fix that condition, right? I've tried some education, I've tried different jobs, I've tried a different part of the city, I've tried to move from city to country, I've tried to move from 2,100 miles away from where I grew up at to a whole other state. I've tried going to changing my friends, right? Get out the streets, going to meetings, find good church friends, or go to one type of fellowship or another type of fellowship, or people that don't have no alcohol or drug problem or whatever, these straight-laced friends. Try to move around to different, all these different things. Everything I know of to try to do to correct that condition. Nothing I can do. No outside circumstances will fix that condition. Circumstances may have slowed down or sped up the progression of that condition, right? Because I'm going hard, and then they put me in jail. That don't stop me, but it slows me down for a while. So the progression of that condition might get affected by circumstances, but it doesn't fix my internal condition, right? So circumstances didn't create it. Obviously, circumstances won't fix it. So then what will? What's the way out of that?
Okay, internally.
Yeah. Spiritually?
You think so?
Yeah.
For you?
For me, yeah.
Yeah, brother.
Higher power.
I'm saying internally.
Saying, I can't, he can, and I'll let him.
I don't know that.
If I can't help myself, at least I can help someone else.
So obviously, it's the mental part of it. You want a big book?
Yeah.
It's the mental part of it that drives me back to picking the first one up, right? You want a big book? So, on page...
It's a book that we can actually keep?
Yeah, so it's all you. 22, bottom 22. We know that. So this is a problem. This is a program of recovery for whatever substance that you chased in here. It doesn't matter what the substance is, but it was written by alcoholics. Just replace alcohol with whatever, with drugs in general, or meth, or heroin, or whatever. In Heroin Anonymous, we
Anonymous is after, right?
tend to replace it with heroin if you want. We know that while the alcoholic keeps away from drink, as he may do for months or years, he reacts much like other men. We are equally positive that once he takes any alcohol, whatever, into his system, something happens, both in the bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. The experience of any alcoholic will abundantly confirm this. Have your experiences confirmed this for you?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yes.
Amen. Okay. These observations would be academic and pointless if our friend never took the first drink, thereby setting the terrible cycle in motion. Therefore, the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. If you ask him why he started on that last bender, the chances are he will offer you any one of 100 alibis. Okay, we'll pause there for a minute. Why'd you start on the last bender that you went on? Chicks. Okay, that's one alibi down. We got 99 left to go. 1 out of 100. What was it? Family. Okay, we got 2 out of...
Mine was, well, if my wife kicks me out and don't give a fuck about me, why should I?
Non-caring attitude.
No.
Okay.
There was never enough road for me to go as fast as I could go.
Okay, run out of road. Run out of road. Okay. Okay. Sometimes these excuses have a certain plausibility, but none of them really make sense in the light of the havoc an alcoholics or drug addicts drinking or using bout creates. They sound like the philosophy of the man who, having a headache, beats himself on the head with a hammer so that he can't feel the ache. If you draw this fallacious reasoning to the attention of an alcoholic, he will laugh it off or become irritated and refuse to talk. Can you identify with people trying to get at the truth of what happened, and you become irritated? Oh, fuck you, I ain't talking to you about this no more. Right?
Why should I waste my breath? Keep talking. You only live in it. This is my life.
And they don't even understand,
I
right?
felt like I was never enough, you know what I'm saying, or something like that.
If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right. I have no problem with drugs until I run out. Now we got a problem, right?
Yes.
Once in a while, he may tell the truth, and the truth, strange to say, is usually that he has no more of an idea why he took that first drug or drink than you have. Some drinkers have excuses with which they are satisfied part of the time, but in their hearts they really do not know why they do it.
Can we stop there really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a burning thought, and that's what my mom always asks me. My dad too. Not my dad. Not he don't give a shit. Not really. He don't really give a shit. She always asks me, like, even when we're in car rides together, and we really enjoy each other's company. We really do. But she asked me because she just smelled it on my breath, and she keeps smelling it on my breath. You know, this is not her first rodeo. She asked me, Nick, why? She listed off all the good things in my childhood. She said, why? Why did you do it? And in my heart of hearts, I really didn't have an answer for her. I said, I don't know. And she stopped, the car pulled over and started yelling and saying, why? Because she needs solace for herself. And that's what hurt, because I can't give that to her. And she thinks I'm just not trying to talk, you know?
Is it that she feels that she wants to know where she went wrong at? Is that what
exactly, it is? That's exactly it. She wants to know where she went wrong at. That way she can try to recorrect herself. And I'm saying, I'm 25. Like, you can't recorrect parenting, right? It's what's done is done.
Yeah. But is it her fault?
In the beginning, before the first chapter in this book, there's a section called the doctor's opinion that gives a medical perspective on our condition, and that is an important part. That's why it's in the book. It's not written by an alcoholic, so it's not part of the chapters, but it's an intro in the beginning. It's an intro in the beginning, so it gives a medical explanation as to why it is that we do what we do, right, from a medical point of view. So it's not an excuse, but so that we become satisfied with, wow, I really do suffer from a bona fide physical and mental condition from a medical point of view. Okay, that's a big part of why that's in the beginning of the book. It's been a big part of the reason why I have tried to understand what the material that they present and be able to explain to myself, because I went through most of my life just thinking that I was a loser. that I was a lost cause, that I was a hopeless case, that there was something wrong with me, or the other people were born with something that I was born without, or they know some secret that I don't know, right? And I take that upon myself. And until I can really understand and look at my past experiences and come to understand that, according to a medical expert in the field some 90 years ago wrote this explanation, and I can identify with that in my own experience, that I've become convinced that I really do have an illness, and start to learn to let myself off the hook, that I really do have an illness, even despite all of the crazy chaos and the pain, hurt, and misery and the losses that I caused. And then I have a chance to make up for that. If I live this program, that's why I live this program, is to be able to make up for some of that, go back to the people that to make amends to them, and then be able to, in an amended life, come and help other people. And I have, continuing on this path, God has presented me with opportunities to continue to make amends for all that stuff. You know, there's a guy that I sponsor that in prison for probably a year and a half, and I thought if anybody had a good chance of getting out and making it, it would be him. And he was the only guy that I knew in Tucson when I came here 3 months ago, and I came here to find out, well, I kind of guessed that he was already anyway, but he had relapsed, and he's been in relapse for over a year, and he's racking up problems and causing a lot of headache for his mom. It was just a God thing that one night, just a couple weeks after I got here, he happened to just get out of jail right after Christmas, and he went to a meeting, and I just happened to be at that meeting that normally I would have never been at. But some other guys that I lived with needed to go to a meeting, and that was the only meeting that late at night, so I took them to that meeting because I had a car, and here was my friend showed up. An hour out of jail, just felt moved to go to that meeting. And I think he's only been to one meeting since then. But I reconnected with him, and I've stayed in touch with him. And he's put his mother through it, just like I put my mom through it when I was in relapse mode. And I had friends from AA that came, and they tried to help her out and comfort her and help clean up some of the mess that I made, and they were there for her. And I was given an opportunity to do that. And I can be supportive to her, touch base with her almost every week. He's taken off with her car a couple times, and I go pick her up to take her to do her errands. I have that opportunity. I'm in a position, I'm in a condition, I'm in a position, and God puts the people in front of me, and I get to return to make up for some of the shit that I did way back then. These happen all the time in my life, and I just keep growing and growing more and more. And the whole idea of what I really do and had an illness and caused a lot of damage, and the more I get opportunity to make up for that and be a part of the solution, the whole thing as a whole, right? I come to accept myself, forgive myself, be able to help other people, be able to make amends to some of the people who are still around that I hurt. It's all step by step, and it's a continuing growing process.
So you feel like not only do you know it, but you can actually accept it that you can help yourself. And more importantly, you can help anyone, if not someone else out there who might need that help.
Well, to be more specific about that, I've learned the hard way that I can't take credit for any of it. I can't.
Yes.
There's a power greater than me that works through me that is doing that.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I lived in a bathroom or a car with a bottle of Jack Daniels or a bag of whatever, or a spoonful of whatever, just living that way. Just my guts in a knot, living in fear, knowing that eventually I'm going to end up back in prison again for an untold amount of years, and just trying to consume lethal amounts of drugs to block off the consciousness of how much suffering that I was doing physically and internally, spiritually, and feeling utterly useless and utterly hopeless, and living like that for many, many months on end. And again, wondering why am I having to go through all this? You know, why can't I just freaking end it? And I can't count how many times that I would think, well, tomorrow I'm out of dope, or almost out of dope, I will be out of dope. Tomorrow morning I wake up and I'm going to keep it that way. There's no more getting high. I'm going to figure out how to put this thing back together and stay on track. And I get up, and in about an hour I'm like, well, maybe tomorrow. Fuck it. Not today. It's not going to happen. And it's just day after day after day after day. I couldn't string together for months. I couldn't string together one day of being clean and sober on my own. You know, and farther back in my past, I've been to rehab 7 times. I've lost count of how many times I was in jail by the time I was 25 years old. been in prison 3 times. And I get out and it's like, I have to stay clean and sober. I can't let this happen again. Once I learned the fact that I don't have a shot at getting my life on track and keeping it that way unless I'm completely clean and sober. Once I learned that truth about me, and then I had to go out and I had to try to keep it that way on my own. With all the resolve that I can muster, I'm going to do this no matter what, and I can make it maybe 9 months at the most. Several times I've done 9 months, and almost to the day, I fall off. I have to go do something. My mind just talks me into going and doing something. And then I freak out. Oh, my God, it's going to happen again. I'm going to end up in prison. I'm going to end up in jail. I'm going to end up just miserable. And I can't let this happen. Then I go running back to meetings and I get clean and sober again. And it lasts maybe about 6 months. And then 6 months comes and I relapse. And then for the next year or so, this is my pattern. This is my pattern. Then in the next year or so, it gets to the point where it's less and less meetings and more relapses, getting fucking high, until finally I throw the towel in. It's like, and this is a year to a year and a half down the road. I'm into this. I started out with, I'm all I can muster. I got to do it this time. There's no more of this. It's done forever. And until finally it's like, it's got me whooped. It's in God's hands. I'm going to give up and just go off the rails, and I'm either going to die or God's going to get me clean and sober, and that's it. Give up. Fuck it. Right? Because I can't beat it. Now today I understand that I never had a snowball's chance in hell of beating it. I'm completely freaking powerless to keep myself clean and sober. Absolutely, completely powerless. There's nothing I can do. Nothing. Okay? So my way out of that is I have to form a relationship with the power greater than myself. And that power will do that. So I have this condition, this mental and physical condition of addiction, alcoholism, whatever you want to call it, right? And the trick is to not pick the first one up, and I can't do that on my own. So I have a drug addiction on top of a human condition, right? And there's absolutely nothing I can do about the drug addiction part of it. Nothing. Zero. Completely powerless. But I have a program of recovery that if I practice deals with my human condition. If I participate in program of recovery and cooperate with God to help improve my human condition, He relieves me of the addict condition, the drug addiction. He takes that away. I have nothing to do with that. So that's why, even when I'm clean and sober, I will go back to it unless I participate in a 12-step program of recovery. That's a main reason why I got to do that. And the 12-step program of recovery deals with my human condition, not my alcoholism or my drug addiction. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I needed that. I needed that so bad. You have no idea.
Yeah?
Yeah. I forget sometimes that I have to be able to step away from things and still be just as concerned as if I hadn't, and surrender my will over to God. So that way He can guide me along this path, this righteousful path on which He's built. As I pray before. It's not about being religious. It's about I'm spiritual. And I like to believe that every prayer said makes a difference. So when I'm praying for each meal to be blessed, I always like to mention upon this path on which He's built, and I want to be a part of His plan because I know that there's only one way, and that way is with God, So as long as I hold on to that principle, I should be able to be a part of this.
You've been to some meetings before.
I've been to a couple. I've been coming to them since I was 18, And
a couple, huh? Okay. So they read a portion of how it works, right?
Yes.
On page 58, it says, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." Ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay. So up to that point, this is written by alcoholics for alcoholics, and they talk a lot about alcoholism in the beginning chapters. But you notice when it gets to the program, that's where the program begins, is on that page. It doesn't say, "Rarely have we seen an alcoholic fail who has thoroughly followed our path." It says, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path." Okay? That's because the program of recovery deals with the human condition, not the alcoholic condition. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That's how I know that.
I like that.
I didn't make it up. It's in the book.
I've never heard someone point that out to me until today. So I thank you.
I like how you break it down.
The years I spent in prison, God prepared me to get out and to help people. You weren't here a little while ago, and I shared a little bit about my background. I had 17 years clean and sober at one point in time, and I relapsed, and I lost everything, and ended up back in prison, and was in prison for 11 years, And halfway through that sentence, God got me clean and sober again, and I spent the remaining years, about 6+ years, learning how to live this program, learning how to conduct meetings, learning how to bring a message to people, and learning how to help God's kids. I was just released from prison 3 months ago, 90 days ago. I got out of prison after 11 years.
Wow.
You have some plans when you get out to
Yeah.
succeed, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to go and do the same thing and
I
expect
don't
different
wanna go
results, are you?
I don't want to go to prison, hon. I don't want to go to prison. I'm trying my hardest to
Hell
stay
yeah.
out of there. So
Pray.
I'm
Pray,
going
follow
to-
this book.
I will. And yes.
The doctor was an expert in alcoholism and drug addiction. If you read the whole doctor's opinion, he'll explain all that. And he explains it everything from a medical point of view. But ultimately, he's like, medicine has nothing, we can't do anything for you.
Right.
Medically, we can't do anything for you. You're doomed to an alcoholic death. You're freaking hopeless, okay? The only suggestion he had is what's at the end, is that last paragraph on that left-hand page. What is his suggestion?
I earnestly advise every alcoholic to read this book through, and though perhaps he came to scoff, he may remain to pray.
Read this book and pray. That's his. See, that's not my advice. That's advice that's coming from a 90-year-old book that millions of people have used to recover from alcoholism and drug addiction.
Yeah.
So, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
You here for detox?
Yeah.
Opiates? Alcohol? Both?
Opiates.
Opiates? Yeah. How you feeling?
I'm feeling all right.
Better?
I just got here, so I relapsed after 6 months.
You had 6 months clean and sober?
Yeah.
Completely clean and sober?
Yeah.
So, how come you relapsed?
Just taking it alone.
You, how long ago did you relapse?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. You remember that day?
Yeah.
Did you wake up thinking I'm going to get high today?
I don't even know how I felt the next day. It's just another day.
It's another day. You didn't plan on getting high, did you? So how did that happen? What were you thinking that day? What'd you pick up?
Well, I started smoking weed, and then after that, I just went to the IV meds.
In the same day?
Yeah, the same day.
Happens quick and hard, don't it?
Welcome to the barn.
So when you started smoking weed, did you think that this time was going to be different, or we're going to have a hell of a good time, and we're going to quit when we want to quit? Everything's going to be. You thought it was all going to work out good. It was going to go well. Yeah. And it didn't turn out to be that way though at all. 2 weeks later, what happened?
You're again detoxing. Because I wanted to be weak.
Because you what?
Because I wanted to be weak.
What is your name?
Johnny?
Johnny, we're not weak people, and this is why I'm bringing this message of recovery and this book into people, because this book will help explain what's been happening to you. We're not weak people, and we're not bad people. We just have an illness, and this is a solution to be able to deal with that. This is what we were talking about, right? We think poorly of ourselves. We go through enough shit, we cause enough damage, we end up back in here sometime, and eventually we start thinking that there's something wrong with us. We're a bad person. Other people seem to have been born with something I wasn't born with, or they know some secret that I don't know, and someday maybe I'll figure it all out, but I don't really have a whole lot of hope of figuring it out now. It will help explain the hopeless nature of addiction and alcoholism, and if you can identify with it, it will become an explanation, not an excuse, an explanation as to what's been going on with you. You ever been introduced to the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous?
Yeah, a few times, but I just never actually opened it.
Would you like a copy now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm here representing Heroin Anonymous, and the Program of Recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous is the same one that's used in Heroin Anonymous and a bunch of other 12-step fellowships as well, because it's been known to work for addicts and alcoholics of the hopeless variety. And by the hopeless variety, I mean tried everything else and found that nothing seems to be able to help. And this doctor that wrote the intro says, maybe you should read this book and pray. Wow, all of a sudden some things start changing. So, you must have had intentions to stay clean and sober, or you wouldn't have managed to do that for 6 months, right?
Yeah, that's all I was trying to do, is just stay sober, you know what I mean? I was just trying to go as far as I can.
You wouldn't have been trying to stay clean and sober had you not had some idea that not being clean and sober was not a very good idea for you, right?
Right, yeah.
So you didn't really think that getting high again was going to work out for you, did you?
No, yeah, I didn't think it through, no.
A big part of this, starting on this path, is learning to start to be more honest to myself about myself. For you guys who have been introduced to this before, I started out a little bit on page 58, right? How it works, and it starts out by saying, who wants to read?
I can read it.
You want to read the first 2 paragraphs on that page for us?
Yeah. It says, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclosed in a general way will be used to be like what happened and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps.
So what do you get out of that?
I'm willing to go any length.
If you
Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program. Have you had, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves? Can you identify with not being capable of being honest with yourself?
Yeah.
It's not understanding the whole truth of things.
Or being honest with yourself, being in denial, or like,
Yes.
or thinking, oh, I quit what I want to, or
That's the biggest thing to me. It's like being a cheater. You know what I mean? When you're in a relationship, you swear to God that you want to be faithful as possible.
Yeah.
But if you're a cheater, you know what I mean? You're going to fucking cheat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can lie to yourself as much as you want to fucking lie to yourself. Well, I'm not a cheater. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to be faithful. Well, it slipped up and happened this time. No, it didn't slip up and happen. That's just the nature of the game.
Leverage can't change the spots.
Yeah, you're a fucking cheater, bro.
I feel like even though we have slips and we relapse, and that is a part of recovery, you could stay in recovery.
Yeah,
And
that's
you
just what I've been
become-
doing. That's what I've been doing. Because I've been having my bouts. Like every time I've come back a little bit closer into the months, and it's been like weeks where I come back now, and I was like, hopefully this time I get it this time, because I'm running out of options. I really am, man. It's like I got my kid to think about, and I got futures to think about, and I don't want to die from cirrhosis of the liver. You know what I'm saying? And I got some of these things left. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's my thing. Like I want to say that, like when I got out of jail, when I got out of pen this time, you know what I mean? I told myself that I would never go back to drugs. That was 3 years ago. I got 2 months left for probation. I'm on a run for probation right now. Because I knew I was coming to the end, and I was like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like probation is the only thing that's stopping me from doing drugs. You know? And now I'm coming to the end. My fucking relapse are getting shorter and few, but me doing drugs are getting longer and longer, you know? At first it used to be a weekend.
Yeah.
Now it's fucking a month.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I only got 2 months left for probation. Like, what's gonna happen when I get off probation? I just can't keep lying to myself and telling myself, like, look, you're not an addict. This motherfucker,
You gotta be all in it.
I'm an addict.
Like it's right.
So there was a point in time when we think that we keep doing it because we just like getting high, right? Back in the day, it was like I just like getting high.
Yeah.
If people just get off my back and leave me alone, let me drink and get high, everything would be copacetic. Legalize drugs, and it'd all be good, right?
Back of the 20s.
But we get to a point in time where we start to learn some truth, right? And the truth is that once I start, I can't stop, and it gets fucking treacherous. So there's a point, a crossover from thinking one way, believing one way, to through pain, misery, and suffering, starting to learn some truth about what really happens and what we're really all about, right? Because this whole, what we just read is really about honesty. That's the topic, right?
Yeah.
Okay? And for years I came around to meetings and they said, there are those who suffer from grave emotional mental disorders. I'm looking around, there's some motherfuckers in here got some grave emotional mental disorders, until finally this last time around I started realizing they're talking about me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to accomplish here is to help you guys learn how to find your experience out of this book. So if you can learn how to use this book, you'll gain a lot more ground. You give a man a fish compared to teaching them how to fish, right? Okay. So earlier I mentioned, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. It doesn't say rarely have we seen an alcoholic fail who has thoroughly followed our path, right? Because we're talking about dealing with the human condition, not the alcoholic or the addict condition. There's nothing I can do about that condition. So I'm going to try to deal with the human condition, and in the topic of honesty is what we're talking about right now. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to the simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Okay, so I could not or will not completely give myself in the past, right? I couldn't recover because I could not or would not completely give myself to this simple program. And this is in fact a simple program. It gets more simple the more I live it, right? Why is that? Because I didn't have a true picture of who and what I was. In a first step experience, we admitted we were powerless over drugs and alcohol. I cannot keep myself clean and sober is a lot about what I am. I'm a freaking hopeless dope fiend. Okay, it's learning the truth about what I am. And in a four-step experience, I start learning about who I am. That I'm selfish, I'm dishonest, I'm inconsiderate, I'm just self-centered to the core. And I have this idea that I can run my own life. Just keep me clean and sober, God, and put me in the game, and I'll win at the game of life, right? Self-will. I start to learn about who I am. So once I start to get a grasp of who and what I am in a fifth-step experience, it's admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And if you're of a religious persuasion, they will call that confession, whatever the case may be. Now I have the content of who and what I am to be able to start to tell that story to another person and to God, and then grow from there, right? If I don't know the truth of who and what I am, then I don't have the content I need to offer this simple program.
That's like when I go to the doctor and stuff like that. That's why I tell the doctor everything about myself, like, oh, I'm here because I'm mad, blah, blah, blah. That way he can properly diagnose me, and that way he can get me on my way. Instead of misdiagnosing me, because then tell him exactly, and misinforming the doctor, that way he can misdiagnose me.
Okay, so we're talking about internal honesty here, being honest to myself, about myself, in regards to who and what I am. That's what they're talking about. Okay, so this is a cause. It says, usually men and women who are incapable of being honest with themselves. It's not talking about cash register honesty. It talks about being honest to myself, about myself. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. Okay, so it's not my own fault. All human beings are born that way. That is the nature of how we are created. If you're a student of this other book, and if you want some of these, you can have some of these as well. Okay. And there's larger print here if you want a larger print one. Okay. If you're a student of this book, if you're a student of that book, it talks about we're created in His image and likeness, right? We were not created to be able to see ourselves with ourselves. That's why we need each other. I'm going to move on to that. It says there are such unfortunates, and they're not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. So it's not my fault. I was just born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. So as a result of that cause of being born in a condition where I cannot see myself with myself, right? Then I can't grasp and develop a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. So this is not a workbook exercise. It's telling us a lot in this one paragraph. It's telling us a lot, and I'm only skimming the surface with you guys right now. Okay, this is a manner of living. It's not a workbook exercise. It's not a one and you're done. You don't do the 12 steps and I finished 12 steps. Yay! Now I can maybe hit some meetings and go live life. No, this is a manner of living that continues. I suffer from a progressive illness, right? Over any considerable period of time, it gets worse, never better. The relapses get longer. The amount of drugs I take gets larger. The amount of time I can stay clean on my own gets shorter. It gets progressively worse and worse and worse. I have to have a progressive recovery. Recovery is like that. I grow in honesty. I learn more. I grow in that. It's a continuously unfolding experience. A manner of living, and it demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. Okay, I'm going to get back to that in a minute. There are those too who suffer from grave emotional mental disorders. Many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest, which means I have the potential to be honest, because there's some people in this world that don't have any potential to be honest. They just don't. Okay? So, grave emotional and mental disorders, such as, in this environment, you're painfully aware of them. OCD. Who suffers from OCD? OCD? To an extent. Anxiety disorder. Impulse control disorder.
Does that mean you just want it now?
Depression. Clinical depression. Boom. Mood disorders, bipolar, sad, seasonal affective disorder, psychotic, panic attacks, phobias, ADHD, PTSD. Okay? Right? Grave emotional and mental disorders. And the result and the cause of those are I was born constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself, and as a result of that, I can't grasp and develop a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And the end result is now I suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. And I mean grave, because if I carry my fears far enough out, I will become suicidal, and if I carry my resentments, my hate far enough out, I will become homicidal. That's how I ended up in prison for 11 fucking years, because I tried to kill somebody because they took something from me, and when you take shit from me, I'm going to warn you once, and then I'm going to try to kill you. I've become homicidal. That's the truth about my nature. So, we have cause, condition, result. Cause, I was born constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself. Result, I can't grasp and develop a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. And result is I suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders. Cause, condition, result. Okay? So, the third step is a decision-making process. Step one is because I look at my past experiences and I learn the truth by experience that I cannot keep myself clean and sober. I learn by experience that even when I'm clean and sober, I can't effectively manage my own life successfully, that I need a power greater than myself. Step two is that I find an experience of this power in my life, came to believe that power greater than myself, right, by experientially. But this is an examination of past experiences I've already had and taking facts that I already have and getting more honest to myself about those facts. But step three is a decision-making process. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. That is the ultimate decision in a step three process, but the step three process itself is a series of decisions leading up to that as an ultimate decision. The first decision I have to make is, okay, their chances are less than average. Have I been suffering from enough dishonesty to be in a category of people that my chances are less than average? Do I have much of a chance, the way I've been going about shit, of living life, staying clean and sober, and living a life that's happy, joyous, and free? Probably not. Okay? Now, do I want to stay in that category? Or do I want to be in a category of, rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path? Because a lot of people say, well, why do they say rarely? Well, don't worry about why it says rarely. Do you want to stay in the category of your chances are less than average, or you don't want to move over into the category of rarely have we seen a person fail? There's the first decision in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous that you have to make. Which category do you want to shoot? Do you want to shoot to get out of that category? You might make that decision. Then there's promise condition. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. If you want to try to move into the other category, rarely have we seen a person fail, then you might want to try to thoroughly follow our path. Right? And it was more than 100 people that wrote this program. More than 100 people were involved in writing this, but they say rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. One path, right? Because in chapter 2 we learned the main problem centers in the mind. We covered some of that, right? And in chapter 4 we learned that on page 55 it says that deep down within every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. He may be obscured by calamity, pomp, and worship of other things, but in some form or another, He is there. It is only there that He may be found, deep down within us. So here's the problem, and here's the solution, right? So this must be the path they're talking about, and they say, rarely have we seen a person fail to thoroughly follow our path, right? Problem, solution. So, all that said, if we have a cause of dishonesty, we have a condition of rarely have my chances are less than average, and we have a result of I'm suffering mightily from grave emotional mental disorders. What is the solution? The solution is our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. Okay? That's experience. Not experience, strength, and hope. some drunk made that shit up. That's not in the program. The program, this is how we share our experience of what I was like, what happened, and what I am like now. Not what it was like, because those are circumstances, and everybody's circumstances are different. And even if you got the same circumstances, your perspective on them is going to be different, right? Can't relate to that.
Right.
Not what it was like, and not why I was like that, because that's theory and opinion. What I was like, what happened, and what I am like now. And when I share that with you, and you reciprocate that with me, then I get new truths about me reflected in your experiences. And we have phrases for that in the program. You say, I really resonate with that. Or I can really relate to that, right? That's because spirit talks to spirit, right? So when I share my experience, you see new truths about you reflected in my experience. And you've been seeing, hearing, and feeling that with me here because I'm bringing my truth and the truth of this program to the table for you.
So that's where that real, recognized real come from?
And you're gonna relate to what you can relate to because it's the indwelling spirit, right? Deep down within us is in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. It's the indwelling spirit. And the power in you knows how much truth you're ready to have revealed to you at any given point in time. I'm just bringing my truth and the truth to the table, and the power in you will reveal to you how much of that you're ready to have revealed to you. That's why when you feel that, feel me when I'm talking. You felt something, right? Amen. That's not coming from me. I'm powerless to do that. That's coming from the spirit in you, revealing new truth to you, and then you feel that in you is awareness of that power that revealed that truth to you. Okay, Amen. It's all coming from you. Problems in you, in our head, and the solution is in you, the indwelling spirit.
Amen.
Okay.
I had a question about, because I can relate to Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, but I can also relate to going to meetings and them telling me, just be careful with that pink cloud. You know, like whether you know where you are in this book.
Be careful what you hear in the rooms, all right?
Okay.
My main mentor, taught me early on, and I kind of already had the gist of that already. Listen to the drunks in the book, not the drunks in the rooms, okay? Yeah. We all come and we share our experience, and everybody's experience, they're at a different path, on a different part of the path. Their perception of it is different, and you know, I go to a lot of meetings, and I love going to meetings. It's a fellowship. In chapter 2, it starts out. It explains that we have a fellowship of friendliness and understanding, which is indescribably wonderful. It's indescribably wonderful because where two or more are gathered, there should be, right? When we get together, okay,
God is there.
Manifests the power of the Spirit in the room, and we can feel that, right? It's a fellowship and a friendliness and understanding which is indescribably wonderful, and I love going to meetings, but those people don't have the answer. This has the answer. This has the directions. The steps are the directions. The steps are a path, right? Rarely ever seen a person fail through a path. How do you get down a path?
You got to walk.
You take steps, right?
Yeah.
You take 12 steps. And the instructions of the steps are in here, and their experience of those steps are in here as well.
So follow the drunk in the book and not the one in the room.
Yeah, amen to that.
Rooms, right?
I like it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't deny the fact that it's very beneficial in the beginning to be able to have somebody that's familiar with this to help you learn how to find your experience in this. And this is what I'm trying to kind of shotgun you into at this point, because we only going to have one shot at this, and I get an hour and 20 minutes with you guys, and that's it. So you guys have been around for a while, so I'm trying to help you learn how to find your experience in this book so that it can further your path. And getting out and finding somebody who's got, a little worn out, a little used, a little marked up. Yeah. Find somebody who's got one that looks like that, right? Yeah. To go through it the first couple of times with that person to be able to get a foothold on this thing. And then like step 6 and 7 are, okay, now you've been introduced to the instructor within, now he'll take you from there on out, right? Yeah. Because a real reliance is always upon him, not upon other people. With that, I will jump to a vision for you. Okay, so here's another tidbit for you. All right, 12-step recovery is not recovery from addiction. It's not about staying clean, sober. Right. Being clean and sober is a prerequisite. And if you read the doctor's opinion, both the authors and the doctor say the same thing. Being clean and sober is a prerequisite to working a program of recovery. Remaining clean and sober is a byproduct of a program of recovery. But what we were just reading, I didn't get up that far. On page 59, it says, these are the steps we took which are suggested as a program of recovery. Okay? At the end of which, at step 12, it says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. It does not say, having remained clean and sober as the result of these steps.
Right.
Okay? Having had a spiritual awakening, spiritually I wake up and I open my spiritual eyes and I recover my spiritual vision. Hence the last chapter in the book, a vision for you. Right? 12-step recovery is recovery of my spiritual vision. And remaining clean and sober is a byproduct of that.
Right.
Makes sense. Okay. So, 151. For most normal folks, drinking means conviviality, companionship, and colorful imagination. It means release from care, boredom, and worry. It is joyous intimacy with friends and a feeling that life is good. But not so with us in those last days of heavy drinking or using. The old pleasures were gone. They were but memories. Never could we recapture the great moments of the past. There was an insistent yearning to enjoy life as we once did, and a heartbreaking obsession that some new miracle of control would enable us to do it. There was always one more attempt and one more failure. The less people tolerated us, the more we withdrew from society, from life itself. As we became subjects of King Alcohol, shivering denizens of his mad realm, the chilling vapor that is loneliness settled down. It thickened, ever becoming blacker. Some of us sought out sordid places, hoping to find understanding, companionship, and approval. Momentarily we did, then would come oblivion and the awful awakening to face the hideous four horsemen: terror, bewilderment, frustration, despair. Unhappy drinkers who read this page will understand. Now and then a serious drinker or user being dry at the moment says, I don't miss it at all. Feel better, work better, having a better time. As ex-problem drinkers or users, we smile at such a sally. We know our friend is like a boy whistling in the dark to keep up his spirits. He fools himself. Inwardly, he would give anything to take a half dozen drinks and get away with them. He will presently try the old game again, for he isn't happy about his sobriety. He cannot picture life without alcohol. Someday he will be unable to imagine life either with or without it. Then he will know loneliness such as few do. He will be at the jumping off place. He will wish for the end. Now, assuming we've read everything up to this point and followed the directions, we have shown how we got out from under. You say, yes, I'm willing, but am I to be consigned to a life where I shall be stupid, boring, and glum like some righteous people I see? I know I must get along without liquor or drugs, but how can I? Have you a sufficient substitute? Yes, there is a substitute, and it is vastly more than that. It is a fellowship in Alcoholics Anonymous or Heroin Anonymous. There you will find release from care, boredom, and worry. Your imagination will be fired. Life will mean something at last. The most satisfactory years of your existence lie ahead. Thus we find the fellowship, and so will you. How is that to come about, you ask? Where am I to find these people? You're going to meet these new friends in your own community. Near you, alcoholics and addicts are dying helplessly like people in a sinking ship. If you live in a large place, there are hundreds, maybe even thousands around here. High and low, rich and poor, these are future fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous and Heroin Anonymous. Among them you will make lifelong friends. You will be bound to them with new and wonderful ties, for you will escape disaster together, and you will commence shoulder to shoulder your common journey. Then you will know what it means to give of yourself, that others may survive and rediscover life. You will learn the full meaning of love thy neighbor as thyself. It may seem incredible that these men are to become happy, respected, and useful once more. How can they rise out of such misery, bad reputation, and hopelessness? The practical answer is that since these things have happened among us, they can happen to you. Should you wish them above all else and be willing to make use of our experience, we are sure they will come. The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. Okay? Now you notice it doesn't say our sobriety proves that.
It says our recovery.
It says our recovery, because when you hit step 12, it starts on page 89. Okay? It starts out with, on the second paragraph, it gives us a beacon of hope, a point B to head towards, some 12-step promises. It says, life will take on new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Okay? These are miracles. They're talking about being able to see miracles happen. You see them because I've recovered my spiritual vision. And I've seen these things happen. They've come true for me. And so I know that the age of miracles is still with us. And I don't want you to miss that same experience.
Thank you.
So, we'll wrap up with the tail end of the book. Someday we hope that every alcoholic or addict, it's 162, it's the last full paragraph, someday we hope. Okay, someday we hope that every alcoholic or addict who journeys will find a fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous or Heroin Anonymous at his destination. To some extent, this is already true. Some of us are salesmen and go about. Little clusters of 2s and 3s and 5s of us have sprung up in other communities through contact with our 2 larger centers. Those of us who travel drop in as often as we can. This practice enables us to lend a hand at the same time avoiding certain alluring distractions of the road about which any traveling man can inform you. Thus we grow, and so can you. Though you be but one man with this book in your hand, we believe and hope it contains all you will need to begin. We know what you are thinking. You're saying to yourself, I'm jittery and alone. I couldn't do that. Ah, but you can. You forget that you've just now tapped a source of power much greater than yourself. To duplicate with such backing what we have accomplished is only a matter of willingness, patience, and labor. We know of an AA member who was living in a large community. He had lived there but a few weeks when he found that the place probably contained more alcoholics per square mile than any city in the country. This was only a few days ago at this writing. The authorities were much concerned. He got in touch with a prominent psychiatrist who had undertaken certain responsibilities for the mental health of the community. The doctor proved to be able and exceedingly anxious to adopt any workable method of handling the situation. So he inquired, what did our friend have on the ball? Our friend proceeded to tell him, and with such good effect that the doctor agreed to attest among his patients and certain other alcoholics from a clinic which he attends. Arrangements were also made with the chief psychiatrist of a large public hospital to select still others from the stream of misery which flows through that institution. Okay. Now, sidebar, I'm living this right now. I met with the director of this facility months ago, did paperwork, and got approved to come in here to bring this message to the stream of misery that flows through this institution. This is not 90-year-old data. I'm living it. I'm living it right now. Right now. Okay. We commence. So our fellow worker will soon have friends galore. And I do. Every week to 2 weeks, I get a call from somebody that I've met in here. Because I'll leave you my number. I'll give you my number before I leave if you want it. And every week or two, I get another new person that says, yeah, I met you in Detox. Hey, let's go to a meeting. I have friends galore. Okay, some of them may sink and perhaps never get up. But if our experience is a criterion, more than half of those approached will become fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous or Heroin Anonymous. When a few men in this city have found themselves and have discovered the joy of helping others to face life again, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has had his opportunity to recover, if he can and will. Still, you may say, I will not have the benefit of contact with you who write this book. We cannot be sure. God will determine that. So you must remember that your real reliance is always upon Him. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. Our book, it's meant to be suggestive only. We realize we only know a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask Him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come if your own house is in order. Obviously, you cannot transmit something you do not have. See to it that your relationship with Him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. And to newcomers, this is our suggestion right here. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit. And you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. And until then, may God bless you and keep you sane, safe, and sober.